Welcome in everybody to another episode of the Fly High Wi-Fi Mental Health Podcast. Hope everybody's been well. A little under the weather myself and Mrs. Wi-Fi here, so please excuse us if we do cough here and there. But I know a lot of people are going through something here and there, so please excuse us. But we are here again, just letting you guys know that you are not alone. All right, you guys see that, and we'll repeat it
Malignant.
over and over again. You are not alone. We are here, and it's okay to not be okay. All right. We appreciate you guys each and every week that we're doing these and the love and support on the other platforms. And if you guys ever need anybody, know that the DMs for us are always open, and we will do our best to respond as quickly as possible and do as much as we can to help. With that being said, we're going to get started with this week's episode. And we are going to start with the topic of.
You forget that already.
No, no, no. You said there's a few of them.
Yeah. So I wanted to circle back around on the topic we talked about last time of narcissism or the
Yes.
narcissistic personality disorder. We talked about narcissism being on a spectrum. I didn't actually mention the different types of narcissism that you can have.
Okay.
Um, so there's 5 traits that you can have. So they're overt, covert, antagonistic, communal, and malignant. So those are traits. We talked about how people can have narcissistic traits or personality traits versus the disorder. So as an actual mental health condition, there's only one diagnosis. So people can have those 5 traits, but not be actually diagnosed with the disorder.
So you can have the 5 traits but not be diagnosed with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can fall under one of those 5 traits and just have personality traits of those 5, but not actually have the diagnosis of it because you have
Okay.
to hit all 9 to have the actual diagnosis.
Wow. That's crazy.
So the condition is usually diagnosed when it extends beyond a trait and persistently affects many areas of their life. So that's
And I said my kids were
stop
going to
it.
interrupt today.
Did you see that fly off the bed?
I did. I thought 2 dogs were rolling off the
No, they're throwing the pillows off the bed. Stop it. Stay down.
bed. Oh shoot.
Um, anyways, they're thinking I'm distracted, so I'm not going to tell them not to do
Yeah.
this chaos behind me. So that's what I wanted to touch on with the narcissistic disorder and traits. So you can have the traits and you can fall within those 5, but there's only one mental diagnosis that you can have.
Okay.
So then jumping into the topics for tonight, the first topic I wanted to talk about is shadow addictions.
Shadow addiction. Okay.
So good old Terry Cole, we talked about her before when
Yeah,
we
we did. Yes.
talked about the high functioning codependence. So she's gonna little comeback tonight with some information with shadow addictions. Again, this is another topic that doesn't have a lot of information behind it
It seems
because
like that's her little motive. Like, okay, nobody else is digging
mhm,
into it. Let me get into it and figure it out.
she really does. She likes to dig into things that people aren't. Maybe they're too afraid to call it out or put a name to it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So shadow addiction is a form of addiction that on the surface is socially acceptable, but does not necessarily interfere with ordinary life responsibilities such as work or relationships or even health. Um, so these are things as gambling, sex, drugs, alcohol, food, exercise, social media. So
It's
when
a
you're
big
sitting
one.
there scrolling on your
Yeah.
phone. So these are starting to pop up since the pandemic as shadow addictions that people aren't calling out as such addictions. because you can kind of go into a normal life with them.
You stay functioning basically. So it's like a functioning alcoholic.
Mhm. So I know sex or drugs and alcohol were put in there, and the reason why she uses these as like a shadow addiction is because these people can drink one beer every single day after work and be fine.
By definition, that's alcoholism. You know that's crazy.
Mhm. But it's not interfering with their life, so they don't get diagnosed with anything.
Right. So it makes sense. They consider she's calling it a shadow addiction because it's not really interfering and they're not getting diagnosed with it. But
Mhm.
doctors have said in the past that one beer at lunch isn't bad for you as you get older either. So like
Mhm. It's
if
these
you
like gray areas that people are getting told different things, but if you are going all day, and this is what she was saying, if you are going all day at work and you're waiting to go have that one beer after work, it is considered a shadow addiction because you're waiting to have that one thing. Or if you're waiting for your lunch break to go
oh
scroll, if you're waiting for your lunch break to go scroll on your phone because that's the one thing that's getting you to through that morning to go do,
uh,
that's when it's starting to become a problem.
right. You're relying on that allotted time to do what you got to do for that one moment, even if it is only one beer or if it's your lunchtime to scroll through social media.
So that's like your niche to get you to that next thing. And then exercise was an example too. If you have to go to the gym for say 5 days a week for an hour, and something steps in the way of you going that one day and it throws off your whole flow for the rest of your week, it's becoming a shadow
It all makes
because you
sense then, yeah.
can. So the biggest thing with this is that the problem occurs when it causes a high level of emotional distress that accompanies deviating from the prescribed schedule indicated with this whatever shadow addiction that it falls in place with.
Okay.
Um, so with these, you have to have a certain level or time of mastery to be able to say no or not to do it. So that's where you're able to decipher whether it is becoming an addiction or whether it is just something you enjoy to do.
Okay. I could, a lot of us could probably relate to this as like every night we climb in bed. What do we do before we bed? Or go to sleep? We scroll social media or look at certain things. Like for me, a lot of it would be maybe like I check all the scores of the sports games usually on ESPN, and I feel weird if I don't. Like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that. And then I get on there. So it could be anything as simple as that is considered a shadow addiction.
I so I was like looking into this and like all the TikTok stuff going on and it was getting banned and not getting banned. I just like deleted it off my phone. Now I can't get it back on my phone. And I thought I
What's
was gonna
that
struggle
TikTok?
with it. Yeah.
Oh god.
Now I can't get it back on my phone and I thought I was gonna like struggle with it. And I honestly haven't thought about it. So I was like, okay, well this wasn't as bad as I thought it was then. Because in my mind, now that I don't have it, I don't miss it.
Right. I haven't really. I've only got on TikTok when Chantel sent me something the other day, and I didn't realize it was there or not. Never get on TikTok.
I spent time before I went to sleep scrolling. It was like a mindless scroll. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss it so much. But now that I deleted it off my phone when it's got canceled and I don't
So it's
have it
not
anymore, I'm
affecting you
like,
at all.
it has
Yeah.
not affected me. But I thought it was gonna affect me more because I thought it was a bigger problem than I guess what it was. I just didn't say no to it.
Right.
But a lot of this heightened during the pandemic because people didn't have anything else to do.
Oh, which 100% makes sense. The
So that's when she
pandemic
really
changed a
started.
lot of lives in a lot of different ways.
Mhm. So that's when she started looking into this because she's talked about how like these are all socially like acceptable behaviors, but have they become something that people are overlooking because you can't separate yourself from them?
Sorry, I was talking in chat. Yeah, no, I get that. So I like that she's like the against the grain kind of person. She wants to be the one that puts the effort in where no one else is right now
Hmm.
and trying
So
to
like
figure out some more.
her topics, when you look them up, she's really the only one that has any type of podcast out or any type of articles out about it. So it's hard to like get any other information.
Right, because there's not a whole lot about it anyways.
Mhm. So this kind of opens up to other topics that we can talk about.
In
Like
the
you talked
future.
about alcoholism, so you can kind of in my
Yeah.
trend, I'll start one topic and I'll just kind of build off of it.
Yeah.
It what I got for this one.
What was that?
That's what I got for this one.
All right, so that's shadow addiction, guys. Little breakdown of it. Not a lot of research, not a lot of results into it yet. The young lady that's studying it is very limited on what she can provide because not a lot of people or universities or doctors or people are studying it yet. But she's trying to bring light to it, kind of like what we do here, just a little simple podcast to help bring awareness to things. She's doing the same thing on her end, and we're stemming off of her, using her research. So, shadow addiction. So, pay attention. It could be you. It could be something you're doing. You might not even notice it.
I was
All
gonna say
right.
that you could start saying no to little things and see how it impacts your day.
Right. Throw away TikTok. I mean, you guys know how about I feel about the internet. It's both the godsend and the devil all in one in my book. It can be great. It can be bad. It just depends how it's being used. So, next
What
topic we have is
mental capacity.
we all love to say we don't have the mental capacity for that, right?
So this one, I initially started on that thought
Shadow.
process.
Okay.
Um, but the more research I did, I kind of ended up on a way different train track than I started.
Oh, oh. Okay.
Definitely a way different train track than I started. Um, so personally, there's been a few moments in my life that I can remember that in like a psychiatry way that I probably should not have been making decisions for myself.
That breaks it open for me right away.
I could barely like form a sentence or take care of myself in like basic needs. But a lot of people were looking at me to make decisions. And I had to make those decisions. So there wasn't a lot of like training or knowledge on this person probably should not be making decisions right now. So why are we looking at this person to make big decisions, let
Right.
alone any decisions? So as I continued down the path of mental capacity, I stumbled across the Mental Capacity Act. And a lot of these kind of lie into making decisions under like health officials. So like if you're in the hospital, if you're um under is the I can't remember exactly like power of attorney making decisions when you're kind of in a state where you literally can't make any decisions. So this Mental Capacity Act replaced that.
Okay.
So this kind of opens the case that we should probably think before that and crisis events in life where counselors and therapists should be teaching families that this is probably a state in life where you should step in and make decisions for this person. But there are kind of points that they have to follow to enact this mental capacity act. And then you have to hit points to kind of have it revoked as well. So where that
Okay.
person can get back to the point where they're making decisions again.
Okay.
Um, I wanted to kind of touch on a few statistics that we mentioned before about how many people are impacted by mental health disorders. Like 1 in 6 experience mental health disorders annually. They start at they can start below age 14, but that's when they drastically start. Um, serious mental health illnesses approximately affect 5% of adults. So like taking that into mind, and then you have the people who go through something like a crisis event, and they're just in that crisis event for a period of time. So they just kind of need a period of time where they need this kind of
Basically regain.
regain that state of conscience in their
Right.
mind because they're in that fight or flight mode where that amygdala is activated. So they really shouldn't be making any decisions. So some points for the Mental Health Capacity Act has resulted in increased formalization of capacity law and assessment. So they're rebuilding the assessment. So what hits this? What makes this act kind of come into place? The act has increased the expectation that healthcare workers should be competent at assessing capacity. So this puts people that are still able to make their own decisions, not in the place where they're not making decisions, and it puts people that need the help making decisions in a place where somebody is making decisions for them,
Okay.
which is how it should be. Like
Right.
if somebody's capable of making decisions, let them make decisions. But if someone's not, don't have them out there making decisions when they should be kind of in the healing process. And then the act has also increased the need for training and education. So spreading awareness and understanding the code of practice and independent mental capacity advocates and advanced decisions. So it's growing. So
I
the
just sit
five
here
key
and
prin-
go ahead. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just thinking about like you think about elderly people and their medical decisions with like dementia and stuff. Like, at what
That's
point do
just
we step in? You getting into that?
well, that's what this act kind of falls under. So it falls
Okay.
under like PTSD decisions, it falls under dementia, it falls under all of these different decisions of when you step in. And you have all these people stepping in and trying to make these decisions. So they're growing this. But is there a place where you step in sooner? Like
Rather
I'm
than
saying, like a
later, yeah.
crisis of yeah, crisis event. So where it's just
Yeah.
a temporary. Then you have the dementia patients where when they hit a point, you're never gonna step out. You're gonna
Yeah,
always
you're gonna
have
be
that.
there. And that's okay,
Yeah.
so with what we do with a couple of our clients, like they have dementia,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's so hard because like we've been there now almost 2 years and watching it progress and they're going into like a deeper stage of dementia and it's getting worse and worse and it's sad. But you can see day in and day out they still try to do certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just sad because you have to make them decisions for them at that time because they're not exactly sure or aware of what they're doing at the time.
Yep. So kind of along that line, the five key principles of this Mental Capacity Act is principle one, capacity should always be assumed. Patient's diagnosis, behavior, or appearance should not lead you to presume capacity is absent. So you always have to presume that a person is able to make their own decisions until it has been declared by all parties that they cannot.
And okay, that makes sense. I lived that these last couple of years for sure.
Principle two, a person's ability to make decisions must be optimized before concluding the capacity is absent. All practical steps must be taken, such as giving sufficient time for assessments, repeating assessments if capacity is fluctuating, and if relevant, getting like sign language or pictures, kind of going through all those tests to make sure that they are not able to make these decisions. Because just because they're not able to communicate doesn't mean that their mind is not in a state of making a decision.
Yeah. I know one of the ladies tells
Principle,
my wife every day that she don't need to be babysat. She could do it herself. So she's aware of what's going on. She's just not completely aware.
yeah, it's the principle three. Patients are entitled to make unwise decisions. It is not the decision, but the process by which it is reached that determines its capacity is absent. So this is kind of where I was thinking, like in my personal opinions in life, where I was in a point where I should not have been making decisions for myself, was where I was making reckless decisions.
Sorry, I had to make sure that I got this off the floor because I don't want to fall out of my chair again.
Um, but this is a point in like a crisis event. I was making reckless decisions because I was in a crisis event.
Absolutely.
So this is very different than like a dementia patient
This is in
versus
real time for you
yeah,
in a crisis versus medically.
yeah. So but this is also when I was going through getting diagnosed with like PTSD and going through all of XYZ. So it's a very
Right.
different disorder being put in these categories. So I'm not sure that I agree with the principle three with maybe a PTSD patient versus a dementia patient because PTSD patients making unwise decisions, it's based off of their situation and where they're at
Yeah.
in that just in that moment.
Right. And that can change with day to day, just like as dementia.
Mhm. Um, Principle four, decisions made for people lacking capacity must be in their best interest, which agreed. Principle five, such decisions must also be less restrictive options for the basic rights and freedoms. So kind of still best interest for them.
Yeah. This is an actual act, then you said.
Mhm.
When was this put into effect?
2008, I think.
Oh, so it's been around for a little while.
Yeah, so this is an act that was put into place to kind of override the what was it? It's somewhere in here. Power of attorney.
Right. And
You can use that instead of power. You can use this instead of power of attorney.
I didn't know. So that to me is more of a power of attorney usually has to be signed before they lose everything. Like full control of themselves so they're completely aware of it because they have to be able to make their own decisions still at when they sign the power of attorney. It can't be past this like late stages of dementia to where you go get a power of attorney to make those decisions. So this is probably what comes in to counter that because
Yep.
maybe they waited too long to get a power of attorney for that person to make those decisions for these
Mm-hmm.
people. So this is where this is probably coming into play to go hand in hand with the power of attorney then.
Yeah. Or they just don't have that power of attorney anymore, or
Yeah.
something has happened and they need somebody to step in and take care of.
Yeah.
Um, so it talks about like why do we need to know about this Mental Capacity Act? So in general hospitals, more than 30% of patients um, on acute medical wards may lack capacity. So 30% of just like basic lack capacity. And then a slightly higher portion of 44% of psychiatric inpatients lack capacity.
Excuse me. I just sneeze.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You were very quiet.
I muted.
Oh,
See, I got little buttons I can push. I got the fancy stuff.
yeah, see,
No, you're
they would have
catching
all heard
everything
me
over
sneeze.
there.
Um, so it's a pretty high percentage to think that within these that 30% on like a lower level lack capacity and then 44% on a psychiatric level.
Yeah, that's pretty damn
lack
near
of capacity.
50%. It's crazy. He's just staring at mama.
Or drinking. Yeah. Um, so to decide, like, how do you assess if somebody has capacity or lacks capacities? There's two staging processes um, on how they do it, and they have a flow chart that they have to follow. So the flow chart is like what kicks it into place, and then they'll go into the testing phase.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it, because you already asked the question of. So there was a mental health act of 1983, and they replaced it with a new one in 2008.
So you said there was a Mental Health Act in 1983.
Mhm.
Let's think about that. That's 40 years ago, 42 years ago, right? 41, depending on when it went into effect. Our country has known there's been a mental health crisis since 1983, and it's only becoming more and more aware recently. That's crazy.
Mhm.
Sad, actually. But better late than never, they say.
Mhm. And that's when it changed its name from the Mental Health Act to the Mental Capacity Act.
Yeah, they're two different things, in my opinion.
They definitely are, but I, they
Depending,
probably didn't
well,
know
depending on the
when.
category you fall under. If you fall into like PTSD, that's a mental health thing. You fall
I,
under, or it could be both, though. That's medical too.
yeah, I think the act that they're talking about right here is a mental health, like a mental capacity. I
Yeah,
think when they first made it, they were just classifying it all as like a mental.
right.
But this act is based just off of your capacity of what you're able to handle. But I still think it has a lot of work. Like I'm saying, this is just strictly like hospital based, but it needs to grow into like a crisis event. It needs to grow into more just because of like personal things that I've gone through where I was like, I had a bunch of them making decisions, but everyone was like, you have to be able to make a decision. Like, sure, okay, we're gonna choose that.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it, but this is what we're doing.
Here we go.
Don't get mad at me when
Uh
it's not what you wanted to hear.
yeah, so when then people a lot of times people look back and they're like, I don't remember this part. Like in me during these times, I only remember bits and pieces. And some people I only remember some of these bits and pieces because people told me
Right.
this is what happened. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna take your word for it because you told me this is what happened. So why was I making decisions when I don't even remember?
It's true. Yeah, it's not a good thing.
So that's where I think this needs to like grow into something a little bit more until you get into like a more stable mindset.
Agree.
That's what I got.
All right.
But I ended up on a
Mental
different train.
Capacity Act. Guys, that is an actual act that is passed. So as of 2008, you guys want to do some more research for it besides what we provided today, and I know we'll be doing more, I'm sure too. But the basics of it, and then crew. Always crew says sorry. I was late and almost missed. Love yes. No crew, don't be sorry, bro. Life, guys. Listen, and when it's into the live stream, listen. It's always your time. You guys honor us with. You're not supposed to be here. This is a live stream. It's your time that you honor us with. So never feel sorry if you can't make it or can't be here. There's always the podcast uploaded on all the major platforms that you guys go back through and listen and support us that way as well. So appreciate you, Juice Jams. Appreciate you. He said kids were on me tonight. He says I have to be here. Heart. I appreciate you guys. Is that everything we have for tonight? All right, guys. We touched a little bit more on the narcissism and the categories of it, and then we talked on shadow addictions. Not a lot of research on that one yet. The young lady that does that is the one that I like. I like her. I really do. She's the one that's like, oh, no
I'm
one
sure
wants to
she'll
do it.
appreciate that you're calling her a young lady because she's definitely been in the business for a while.
That's all right. My dad taught me well young. Um, and then also, now I forget. You sidetracked me. See, Mental Capacity Act.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah, I got it. Uh, all right. So again, we appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions, concerns, you guys more than welcome to join the Discord. We're on Twitter, X, whatever you guys want to call it these days. We're on Facebook. We are available at your guys' request if you need to. Uh, Feel free. Also, guys, we did launch merch within the last couple months. If you're in our live stream right now, it's exclamation point FHW merch. All proceeds from that get put into the foundation, going to helping others. So whatever you guys are purchasing, no one gets the money, but it goes back into the foundation, 100% of it to help others. So we appreciate you guys for every purchase that has been made already. Very, very awesome. I have nothing else. All right, guys. On behalf of Fly High Wi-Fi, myself, Mrs. Wi-Fi, appreciate you guys. We'll be back in a few weeks with another episode. Until then, bye.
Bye.